What is an inappropriate question that many adults ask to children? Asking a question and rejecting any answer the kid gives unless it's the adult's own opinion. Yep. Then calling the kid a liar when they give the answer they think the adults expect. I had to deal with that all the time growing up. Yeah, it's putting the kid in a no-win situation where not even an honest answer is valid. My dad does that and I'm in my 20s. I finally learned not to have any serious conversations with him. My dad does this too. Except the question, after not talking to me for 6 weeks, is, "So, how are you doing?" And any answer is incorrect? Yes, that's right. How I'm feeling is incorrect. Well, Dad, I'm feeling a lot like you do, confused as to why people can't accept things. Asking a question and rejecting any answer. I've seen that in a class of adults trying to learn some business process. Second day of a week-long class, the instructors posed a question and every single answer was wrong. Didn't matter what anyone suggested. The smirking instructors at the front said it was wrong. I quit listening at that point. Or getting angry when the kid answers honestly, accusing them of being disrespectful when they were only being honest. I asked you why? I don't want to hear your excuses. Law. I remember teachers getting mad when I answered honestly. They would say, "Don't get smart with me." And that made no sense because we were at school and they were a teacher. Wasn't getting smart the whole goal here? Why can't you be more like your brother sister? As someone who was adopted into a family with older bio kids, I got. My kids were never like that. Jesus, that's so wrong and terrible, I'm sorry. Thanks. It's only been the last few years that I've realized that I was always good enough the way I am. For fucking real? Why the hell do people adopt kids, or even have their own, if they talk like this? If I were to adopt or foster after having bio kids, I would be so self-conscious and worried that my adopted child would think I didn't love them as much. The fact that people can lack insight so thoroughly is annoying as hell. Sorry you had to deal with that. That behavior is on the parents 100%. It's either that or you're just like your brother-sister. If they don't like the brother or sister referred to, that's always what it was in my experience. My mom recently told me I was the most difficult child to raise, like, sorry you passed down all your issues to me. My mother says this: I never rebelled, never snuck out, never answered back, didn't get my ears pierced until I was 18, was terrified of my parents, got straight A's and was in all advanced classes, learnt 3 other languages fluently and play 3 instruments. I was even in my country's youth orchestra at 15. I was really talented and dedicated to playing classical music because my mom loved it. I hated it. She bases this, I was a nightmare child, off of her imagination. She tells anyone who'll listen how I was, on drugs, and out of control. I have no idea where she gets this. I never even went to a sleepover at someone's house. When would I have done drugs? At home alone studying? When playing piano, swimming lessons, ballet lessons, horse riding lessons, studying every spare minute. Like, what on earth is she remembering? Why won't you give me OG? At a family event where everyone is staring? Now if only the staring was, hold on, is that relative making the kid uncomfortable? Instead of, hold on, is that kid being bad? Huh. Reminds me of my niece. She wouldn't hug anyone beside her immediate family. I just told her that it was fine and she didn't need to. Within a couple of months, the hug receiving group was extended to her immediate family and me. She'd come running over to hug me whenever I came over. Absolutely. So many people force their kids to hug whoever or people they don't want to just because they're family. You're just teaching your kid that no isn't good enough. If they say no once, that should mean no in any situation. Couldn't agree more. My parents always forced me to hug, kiss relatives, and I hated it. Very shy and disliked being touched. Later learned I am on the spectrum. They hammered it into me that other people's feelings are more important than mine. I'm convinced this is why I stayed in an abusive relationship for years. My grandpa asked me, "Do you enjoy watching porn?" I was 11. "Jimmy, do you like gladiator movies? Have you ever seen a grown man naked? Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Major groomer vibes?" It's also inappropriate behavior that Alzheimer's can cause, particularly when on some of the medications. Not as serious as the above comment, but this reminded me that when my great-grandmother's Alzheimer's began getting worse, I was about 9/10. She would always congratulate me that I was getting boobs. All the adults were horrified and were like, "Mom, you don't say that." Meanwhile, I was so happy I had noticeable boobs finally. My grandmother with Alzheimer's, sweetest, kindest woman you'd ever meet, was horrifying when my uncle married a Caribbean woman. As far as any of us knew, she wasn't racist at all, so everybody was very confused where the N-word came from during the wedding. Alzheimer's, and some other forms of dementia, can have very distressing effects like that. Attitudes that someone grew up with, and then rejected, resurface. Also, just regressing to that earlier world. It can be sort of funny, even sweet, when they think they're 15, but not so funny when, as here, they say something that was unremarkable in that 15-year-old's world but not now, such as casual racism. I've read about old people in the US going into care homes who start talking to black staff like it was the Old South, when they had long since rejected that background, etc., leaving family deeply upset. And the staff not too happy either. Dementia is bad. If there's family dysfunction and a kid is going through a rough emotional period with moments of lashing out, do you really want to be like your mom, dad when you're older? Fuck, or one parent saying, "You're just like other parent. Kill me then and there. YLL, the one that raised me." Every time someone compares me to my mother, I want to cry. Why don't you have a girlfriend yet? Got any crushes at school? At the same time, can't believe those two are ins and already dating. School is too early for this kind of thing. Because I'm gay? That's why I'm 8 and obsessed with the Golden Girls. Asked by family. Most of the time, do you really want to eat that much? Do you want to make me sad? Do you want to make me sad? WTF, who bullies a child into an eating disorder like that? Frankly, a tragic number of people will do that. I've heard that bloody, "Oh, eat all your food on the plate, there's starving kids in Africa." My response is typically give it to them then, cause I don't want it. A friend of ours used this "make me sad" line on our kid once. This was also well before he and his wife had a child. I immediately shut that down, explained that my literal toddler isn't responsible for your feelings and that being guilted into whatever was not appropriate. The friend immediately apologized, since that was all he heard growing up and thought it was an okay thing to say. Some people just don't realize how seemingly small comments like that can have a massive impact. My family is the opposite. They keep asking whether I want to end these 3 words, fourths, and dutifully reminded of starving children in Africa if I say I'm full and how my parents never had it this easy and I should be thanking them. Yeah, totally opposite dynamic, but bad in its own way. Although I do prefer my situation to yours. Too much food is a better problem than too little. Part of the reason why I stopped going to family holidays years ago. The first thing out of everyone's mouth was either, "Oh, wow, you've gained weight," or, "Oh, you've lost weight." Years of that eats away at a person, no pun intended. I had to shut down the in-laws doing that shit when my first was a baby. It's so harmful and stupid. I don't know if it means anything, but I'm really glad to hear it. I've got a lot of love for parents like you. I'm really glad to see a lot of parents nipping things in the bud that I grew up with and always thought was normal, because no one ever said, "That's not okay." Hi kids, do you like violence? Do you want to see me stick 9-inch nails through each one of my eyelids? Wanna copy me and do exactly like I did? Try sit and get fucked up worse than my life is. My brain's dead weight. I'm trying to get my head straight, but I can't figure out which Spice Girl I wanna impregnate. And Dr. Dre said, "Slim Shady, you a basehead, Nua." Then why's your face red? Man, you wasted. Want me to grab a spare bear suit and stuff you inside it? What are you going to be when you grow up? I'm 67, and I still don't know. That's why we ask, we're looking for ideas. Nanny, for a famous white-collar criminal, waitress, ski bum, member of a band, secretary, owned my own business for 20 years, Plus a bunch I forgot. The other day a kid asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up when I was a kid. That was depressing. Asking if another child of the opposite sex is their boyfriend-girlfriend. Baby boy stares at baby girl only because babies stare at everything. Adults, ooh, ladies man, gonna have to keep the girls off you. When I was a baby I stared at a man in a bright shirt at an adjacent table in a restaurant. My parents made this random man hold me for a photo because they thought it was so funny that I had a crush on him. They still bring it up 27 years later. Babies like bright colors. Plus, I'm gay. My mother will do this with my daughter and it drives me nuts. She will say things like, "Oh, she's flirting with him." And I'm just like, JFC, gross, stop with that shit, she's too. Jesus. I throw hands. Years ago, when my eldest was a toddler, he giggled and smiled at this lady in line with us at Target. She said, "Oh, how sweet." He's quite sociable. I've since come to the conclusion that it is the only acceptable thing to say about someone's little one smiling at you. I would also accept friendly or outgoing. I like those, too. I usually say, "Oh, thank you for the smile, baby." Then I tell the mom that their baby just made my day. And it's always true. I say hi to them and give them a little wave. It's so cute watching them twitch their little baby hands to wave back. I once smiled and waved at a baby and it just stared at me for a few moments and then gave me this huge smile in return and it was so cute. They still bring it up 27 years later. That's the really weird part, to me. I can kind of see people doing the first part as an in-the-moment laugh that they then move on from. But it being a story that they bring up decades later is strange. A neighbor boy had his grandparents visiting while we're outside playing and they asked this. In what way is tweens having a pretend Pokemon battle in the front yard any indication of a relationship? Only relationship I see is a rivalry once his grandpa gives both of you starters. That girl is gonna go on to defeat the mafia and become champion, cool. At least he didn't ask if you were a boy or a girl. And then send you out into the world to face literal gods and legends, crime syndicates, and creepy dudes in the wilderness with nothing but a squirrel holding a stick and a talking book. This or asking if they are going to get married. They're 6 Nancy, back off. We were friends with a family whose son is about a year younger than my daughter. When they were younger and our families got together they would have a great time playing together and his mom and grandma would always make comments about them getting married. As the years went by our families didn't spend as much time together and eventually we moved to different states. My daughter is now quite mature and making her way through life. He, on the other hand, seems to be drifting through life and making some pretty bad choices. So glad they didn't end up getting married. Conversely, my grandmothers were next-door neighbors when my parents were born, 9 months apart. My dad first proposed to my mom when they were 3. His family moved as they got older, but they met up again in their 20s when my dad was in town after leaving the army. They've been happily married for 42 years. Once, when working for a bank, my wife was pregnant and a coworker was pregnant. Both expecting girls. A regular customer commented that our unborn children could get married. Only apologized after realizing both were expecting girls. Like WTF? If it turns out my kid is a lesbian, that's just fine. But it's so fucking inappropriate that you're trying to marry off 2 fetuses. I like that it's only creepy when it's gay. Projecting adult relationships and sexuality onto the unborn is absolutely dandy so long as it remains 100% heterosexual. I despised this so much when I was a teenager. Excuse me, what was our homework assignment again? Okay, thank you. Ooh, is that your girlfriend? Parents like that are just asking for long-term virginity for their kids. What they're asking for is for their kids to never trust them with anything. Why don't you smile more? Oh no, I actually smile quite a lot. Just not when you're around. I'm gonna have to remember this one. I got asked that once, and I just broke down crying because my cat had died recently. I also don't like. Why don't you ever talk? If you're a shy kid, this just makes it worse. Just let me be quiet if I want to. A few years ago my sister's grade 2 teacher said something, slightly worse to her. You smile too much? Yeah, that's just stupid. Let people smile when they feel like it. That question tagged with, you'd be prettier if you smiled. By a bus driver was one of the reasons I developed anorexia as a middle schooler. My childhood brain developed the conclusion that I must not be that pretty. And skinny girls were pretty. So I didn't pretty much eat until my pediatrician told me he'd have to send me to the hospital with a feeding tube if I didn't start getting proper nutrition. Because unbeknown to myself I have internalized trauma from my unstable, abusive and neglectful early childhood, so I'm never really happy. Can I go to the bathroom please? I don't know, can you? Yes. Pulls down pants and shit on the floor. Knew a badass chick. She said she needed to go. Teach wouldn't let her. This chick stood straight up, pissed her pants in front of everyone and the teacher to make a fucking point. My hero. Hope she's still rocking along though. I had an asshole first grade teacher. Public elementary school, mind you. She made it a point that we had to stand by the classroom door, grab a pass, turn around and look at her, and wait for a silent nod of approval for us to go to the bathroom. If we interrupt her we get scolded. I suddenly had to shit badly. So I do all that game nonsense this military school commandant wannabe has us go through. She never mods. I stood there for several minutes. Just ignored me completely. I was terrified of saying anything because this bitch would not shut up with her story about some childhood book lesson applying to real life. As a kid I had a tendency to be compliant even to my own demise. This teacher constantly complained to my parents that I was a problem. Yet everywhere else and in all grades before and after until middle school I'd get shining reports for behavior. She just hated me for whatever reason. I couldn't tell you exactly how long went by with me standing there, but it felt like an eternity. I was dancing, I had to shit so bad. Finally she looks at me and asks what I need. If I had then known the phrase, "This bitch," I would have shouted it. I said I need to go. She replies, "Then why are you just standing there?" I didn't wait to respond, I just left. Didn't have time to hate her. I was fighting with every fiber of my being to not shit the floor. I was almost crying from the fear of it. I get to the bathroom and the first 2 stalls are taken, third one open. I locked the door but too late. I shit my pants. Had the first stall been open I might have made it. But anyways I'm just a first grader. I don't know what to do. I just walk back to class, shit still in my pants. I sit down at my desk. Teacher and kids notice, who wouldn't? She doesn't care. She lets me sit in my shit for the rest of the day. I get on the bus. Shit still in my pants. I go home. I get asked what is wrong. She was never mean to me again after that day. I like to think my parents threatened to burn the school down. This was before such threats weren't acted upon, so saying it wouldn't land you in jail. She was an old lady and that was over 30 years ago. I hope she shit her pants in the nursing home and they abused her for it. I hope her hell is a lake of elementary school kid diarrhea that she is constantly drowning in for all eternity. Good news is that if she's in a nursing home, they likely take forever to answer the button. Not their fault, understaffing. So she's likely sitting in her own shit a lot. When I was in first grade, I got this. I had never experienced it before and was very confused. The teacher said, "I don't know, can you?" I thought about it for a second and then said, yes. Then walked out and used the bathroom. Cue Pikachu face. I wasn't trying to be defiant, I was just naive and didn't know what was going on. I was a socially awkward kid and literally had no idea how to react to this and had incontinence issues because I was so terrified of this reaction. When I got my period and they would ask, "Don't you feel like a woman?" or some crap like that. I was 11 and not amused. Why don't you want to hug me? Don't you love me? Body autonomy is so important for preventing abuse. We have to teach children it's okay to say no to unwanted touches. Edit. Wow, I appreciate everyone sharing their stories and highlighting how important it is. OMG, yes. We ask my little granddaughter for hugs. If she says no, that's the end of it. Her other grandparents make demands and try to force it and tell us we're spoiling her. Anything regarding romance. Do you have a boyfriend yet? Do you have a crush on her? Are you two together? Shut up. It bothers me so much when my sister asks my 4-year-old nephew that. I can tell he's already scared to have friends who are girls because my family pesters him about it. He's 4, so he has little idea how relationships work. Dude, this is why boy-girl friendships are so stigmatized by a lot of people, specifically alpha male influencers. If you've been taught from birth that these relationships can't happen on a platonic level, it's very hard to get out of the mindset that you have to romanticize sex while as every person of the opposite gender you interact with. It's BS. I remember hating being asked that as a kid, and a preteen, and a teenager, and it made me so uncomfortable and confused, like, why am I supposed to have a boyfriend and why do you care? Do you still believe in Santa? All you're doing is making them question Santa. Will you take care of us when we get old? Bro, for real. Had a variation of it though. My mother's mother adopted me and I pretty much took care of her growing up. Her son, his wife, and my eldest brother all decided it would be my duty to take care of her when I was an adult as well. No college, career, or romance for me, I guess. It's fucked how serious they take that question, especially when asking a kid who has no idea what that would entail. Not so much a question, but when a little girl asks why a boy is being so mean, the answer, "Because he likes you," has always pissed me off. Sure, let's teach little girls to accept abuse as love, and little boys that being abusive means they really care about someone and gets them what they want. It's bullshit and I'm done with it. I tell the little girls in my life that if he isn't kind to you, he doesn't deserve your attention. Thank you. I get the psychological babble about not knowing how to express emotions, but some kids are just little shit. I'm so glad to see someone coach young girls. They deserve better. If everyone did their part to break the cycle, it would be broken with less work on everyone's part. Little boy, I understand you want little girls' attention, but your actions are unkind, and no one wants to be around unkind people. Show kindness and they'll want to be kind to you also. Anything sexual, I'd imagine, like breast size, are you still a virgin, dick size, sex toy use, or masturbation habits? Why are you playing with gender-specific toy? That's for boys, girls. On the rocks or neat? Come on, he's just a kid. Offer him a mixer. Do you want to burn and go to hell? Threatening children with burning in hell is disgusting.